While many juvenile detention centers use confinement as a form of punishment, some state facilities have cited low funding or staff resources as to why they use the practice. Not in my backyard is right, Shayna. Folks here in Carnarvon Township paid little attention to the state's growing casino industry. Well, that was until they learned of the township's plan to build a massive casino right in the heart of their community. For months, Bordentown residents have complained of a rotten odor smell, but now they're demanding answers from Waste Management, who owns and operates the neighboring dumps. With more than 1 million visitors expected to travel to the fair over the week, Molly's family is hoping to get her face and these flyers out to as many as they can. I spoke with Teresa and Gabe about their haunted nuptial, and they were thrilled, so much so that when we were told that there could be prisoners buried out back and maybe some floating around, they didn't even blink. They wanted to celebrate their special day right here on Halloween. State lawmakers will host a public hearing on the bill, along with 6 other measures that Democratic legislators hope will go into effect within the next several weeks. Add beer to the list. Love City Brewing, like so many breweries, is feeling the squeeze. Guys, imagine opening your back door to see a dozen or so stray cats. Well, that's a reality for some South Philadelphia residents who say they've had it with the city's cat issue.
This is 1 week after General Motors shut down a production plant that employed more than half the town. Talia Kirkland speaks with the locals and the impact on their community.
It's been 1 week since production stopped at the Lordstown General Motors plant, and already the close-knit community is feeling the impact. Nisi's Country Cafe, located just a few miles down the road, is usually full of plant workers around lunchtime, but not today.
It's very slow right now.
Lisa Miller, a waitress at the cafe, says the cuts have been hard on business.
So I've said goodbye to quite a few customers that have been transferred.
But even harder for the customers she calls friends.
People are breaking up their families. You know, dads are going on ahead without moms and kids, and it's sad.
For 52 years, families in the small Ohio town lived and breathed cars. But now the only constant for residents is uncertainty. According to a General Motors spokesperson, 1,374 workers remained at the plant at its time of closure. Of those workers, roughly 417 have accepted transfers in other cities. 347 are eligible for retirement, and 100 will continue working through the end of the month, with the remaining in limbo.
Right now, the outlook for this town does not look good.
Economist Amanda Weinstein says uncertainty and potential closure will affect the entire region.
They'll see other businesses leave. They'll see families want to leave. It's not a place where they feel their kids can grow up and then work there.
January was our worst month since we opened.
Casey Watson, owner of Antiques and Uniques in the neighboring town of North Jackson, says her sales have drastically declined, with more customers coming in to sell items than to buy. But when asked will declining sales force her to close, she said no.
We'll hang on there as long as we can. I mean, you know, I believe that the sales will pick up.
The locals here are hopeful that the company will restart production on a new GM vehicle. In Lordstown, Ohio, Talia Kirkland, Fox News. Good evening, Lucy. That's right. Teens walked into Hightstown High School as students, and now they're walking out as lawmakers. But get this, they say they're not done yet.
We had a little bit of success one time around, maybe.
Students in Stu Weckler's AP government class were already civil rights champions. For 3 years, the New Jersey teens had researched, drafted, and even tweeted to the president to turn their class lesson into federal law.
It was an incredible moment.
But when they heard the news the Civil Rights Cold Case Collection Act was approved, Mr. Wexler knew history had been made.
This is something way outside the normal scope. To the best that we can find, no teacher, no class, no set of students have ever done this before.
The new federal law will allow investigators to review records of murders from the civil rights era and as far back as the 1940s, believed to have been racially charged.
The information is out there, it's sitting out there, it's just not available to these people. And I really just felt like they needed to know. I know if it was me, I would want to know.
Students hope to take on Congress next.
We're not giving up, and that we're looking to work with those in power to protect the spirit of this law.
To gain funding for families like Josephine McCall in Alabama, who went 35 years without having answers for her father's lynching. She believed her father was killed because of the family's perceived wealth.
At a farm where he was employing about 35 or 40 people, the store, and the trucking business.
Northeastern University professor Margaret Burnham believes there's hope the students' efforts will bring not only closure, but answers.
It's going to change our sense of our history. It's going to change our understanding of what the legacy of violence has meant for these communities. It certainly is going to affect the families.
Talia Kirkland explains.
Right now, currently, it says male-female, and so there is no other option at this time.
For years, Dexter Rose felt uncomfortable choosing between the male and female option on state ID forms, penciling in a response.
You have to draw it in, right? Doesn't feel very affirming to have to draw in the box.
But now, drivers in Pennsylvania will have 3 options to identify themselves: male, female, or X. A change Rose says is a big step forward.
I feel like self-determination is where I would like to see PennDOT move towards, right? And so it wouldn't require somebody else saying, yes, this person is transitioning.
Right now, only 7 states and D.C. allow people to change their gender without a doctor's signature. Most states have no policy, and others require a lengthy approval process. And in Pennsylvania, some policymakers are still skeptical.
When someone identifies themselves, that there's still some specific defining characteristics about how you might be treated medically, about how law enforcement needs to identify you, health insurance. But the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation says this move was long overdue.
We're glad in Pennsylvania that we're able to offer a license that's inclusive of everybody, and it allows people to have something in their pocket that shows accurately who they are.
Rose says it's time.
That would feel really good to have an identification that felt more who I am.
The Pennsylvania Department of Transportation says the changes will go into effect next spring, and drivers will be able to mark X instead of male or female. In Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Talia Kirkland, Fox News.
You can smell it.
From the smell of cat vomit to feces, Julie Crow says the city's cat problem has grown out of control, and hot summer days have become a nightmare.
You go to the bathroom over in that corner. I just cleaned that on Monday, and I put down like bleach, and they just go right over it.
Philadelphia is home to nearly 500,000 strays, a serious issue for the city's animal and care control team.
The goal is to go to these areas, find these colonies of cats, and fix them, like in a mass targeted TNR effort.
Volunteers use TNR, or trap, neuter, and release. Cats are trapped, fixed, given their shots, and then released back to the area where they were found. The method has been adopted in states like Florida, Texas, and New Jersey, all citing reduced populations of feral cats. And regionally, Philadelphia estimates 60,000 cats were fixed in 2017. Miss Jean Van Sciver is a cat mom.
Come on, JJ.
And has a passion for the project. Van Sciver says she cared for hundreds of strays.
I'm not going to see them starve. And I mean, to me, they're not hurting anything. And they have as much right to live as anybody else.
Yet a study conducted by the Smithsonian Migratory Bird Center says helping stray cats is harmful. They found stray cats kill an estimated 2.4 billion native birds and 12.3 billion small mammals each year nationwide. Miss Jean pushes back, saying the proof is in the trappings. During our story, the group of volunteers caught 10 cats on their street, all which would be fixed and returned home to an adopted cat mom like herself.
They live here. They're just outside cats.
Shortly after our interview, Miss Jean unexpectedly passed away. Her family encouraged us, though, to share her story in the hopes that it would educate many more about her passion, helping the feral cat population.